And here we are once again. And it's Monday. Well, it's quite late on Monday afternoon for us, Pat, isn't it? Why
Yes,
are we an hour late? Why is
we
this
had
happening?
slight technical difficulties, and I think they were at my end rather than yours.
Was it a gremlin in the Donegal?
I think so. You know the old one when the TV give it a kick. I did the equivalent of this one. I just shut it down and sort of said, right, let's see what happened.
Well, that's
So
always
anyway, we could see each other on the last occasion, but no speak. Maybe that was a good thing now to think of it, but there you go.
Maybe we should continue just writing messages.
I'm not being nice, Darren. It's like a silent movie.
This is all very well to laugh now, but what we're going to talk about is no laughing matter. Apart from the name of it, and the name of this thing we're going to talk about is Omicron. Omicron. I think it's a bit of a laugh, the name, because that's how you pronounce Oma if you're local. Omicron. So it does look a bit serious, and I think the thing that people are asking themselves is, are we going back to the future?
Yeah.
What about restrictions and so on? Is this one that concerns you particularly, Pat, do you feel? Or
yeah, there was you see, I usually on the evenings listen to RT radio, and there was a guy, Navarro, I think his name, he's from the World Health Organization. He was on the other evening, I think it was Friday evening, and I was asked, is this a mutant strain of interest or concern? He says, well, and Mike, I would say it is of concern. And I heard a woman on this morning, I think she was from Trinity College. She's a professor as well. And she says this one has the ability to mutate quite seriously.
Yeah.
So, but now there's a guy, De Gascon, I think his name, he's one of these experts as well. He said there's no reason as yet, now he didn't say it's definitive, that the vaccinations wouldn't work against it. But Jude, what does seem to be happening, no, the real question, Jude, the reason I asked this, I don't know what your opinion is. Are we facing into the prospect that this virus is going to be with us forevermore, amen?
Well, I tend to reluctantly think that it is. And I suppose gradually over the past 2 years, from being something that horrifies me, I've just sort of shake my shoulders and say, well, there's all sorts of things out there that could kill you, all sorts of serious diseases. So this is just another one. I think the problem in part, Pat, would be that maybe people, it's the unknown, you know. You don't know what this thing is, and you're waiting for a verdict of some kind. And I think myself that the politicians certainly are trying to play safe on this. They don't want to give people a big green light and result in chaos. So they're playing their cards kind of tight to their chest on this. Maybe it'll encourage, I think it is encouraging some people who partly haven't yet got the vaccine. I saw them on RTE last night lining up to get the vaccine.
Yeah, massively so.
Yeah, so if it's having that effect, I think that's good news. But I suppose the back of all our minds is this: will we or will we not get sick and die? Or will a loved one, will they or will they not get sick and die of this thing? It sounds like a sci-fi movie, but that at the back of it is what it all comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah, right? You know, another one of the things that this whole thing about the virus, and there's so many strands to it. Yeah. Like I am sort of fairly active on social media because I get bored watching TV, and if I'm too lazy to read a book.
And you're a very argumentative person.
Of course I am. I'm a journalist. That's what.
No, you're not.
Well, I was.
No, you're not.
Right. So I now and again, and I know these anti-vaxxers. Do you know the one thing that strikes me is, who was it said that the wise are full of doubt and the fools are full of certitude? You know, these people who are coming on all the time and saying, this is a hoax and a scam, and all the doctors and all the rest. And Jude, I was just sitting today, and my wife made actually a very, very good observation. But we have young grandchildren. One child is the youngest of one family is about 9, 10 now. And about 3 or 4 years ago, she was out in the street playing with her friends and all the rest of it. My other son, his eldest child is 3. That wee fella, because he came in COVID, he's hardly been out in the street. He rarely meets anybody. He goes to the creche and comes home and goes into his own house. And you sort of wonder, see what the long-term effects of all this on society, on child rearing, on all the rest of it. And the other thing as well, Jude, what do people sort of do long term? Do we stop visiting people? How does society deal with this? You know what we're saying? If this is going to be with us forever, more amen. Do we walk around with masks on all the time? Do we social distances? What about places of entertainment? What about schools? The implications for us are quite serious.
They are. There's definitely going to alter our behavior. I think that thing about kids, certainly children that have never had a chance to be hugged by their grandparents or whatever, or associate with other kids in a relaxed way on the street. I think even before COVID came along, I was lamenting the fact that nowadays, a teacher can't put their arm around a kid because they could be accused of all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
So that was already set in. Now we have this, where not only can their teacher not be allowed to put their arm around them, but their grandfather or their grandmother might be dubious to put their arm around them. So that lack of sort of tactile experience, I think that's serious, because I do think, your feelings towards people is tied up in part with how close you can get to them physically. I know that's that sounds very.
I understand that.
Yeah. So I'd say that's going to be cut back on. The consolation I take is this: they've 2 years of experience fighting the virus, whatever form it takes. So they must by now have at least some structures in place that they didn't have at the beginning of the first lockdown. So I would sort of console myself with that thought that at least they've got the weapons ready. They're not sure if they'll work with this one, but they think they might at least partially help. So again, because we've faced the Delta virus and because we've faced whatever the original one was, I just sort of shrug my shoulders now and say, well, I hope they can fight it, and I hope it doesn't wipe everybody out, because some people are talking that way. One last thing, Pat. You were saying, is this going to be the way it's going to be for evermore? Amen. Dare I say it, this has happened at a time in my life which, in a way, could hardly be better. Because
what do you mean by that?
Well, there was a time in my life when you couldn't have kept me inside. I would have been out doing something. I'd jump in the car and go off somewhere. I'd go to the pub. I'd do all sorts of stuff. I just could not stop. And now I'm at a stage where I don't mind, as long as I can talk to people like yourself every so often. It's through Zoom. I'm not really that pushed. Well, I kind of like to get out a bit, but I can think of worse fates. So at this stage of my life, if you like, it's getting me ready for serious old age, which is an appalling thought.
But you look here, what is they saying? There's 5 cases of Omicron, I think, or 6 in Scotland. And Stephen Donnelly, the Minister for Health in the South, said we should take it for granted. Well, I don't know if granted the right expression, but anyway, that it's here as well. Ireland, on the island of Ireland. So it's almost certain that it is. So, Jude, and what I was saying, if this variant is more potent than some of the other ones, what I was thinking when I sort of put the question to you earlier on was, are we facing into a lockdown at Christmas again? Are we going back to this 5-kilometer limitation it was in the Republic? That was seriously restrictive.
Did you find that seriously restricting? 5 kilometers last Christmas?
That 5. See, do you remember last Christmas, during the Republic, the government had in the balls to sort of rein everybody in, so that it was a free for all over Christmas. And then came January, there was a massive spike. Now, I don't know what's going to happen this time, but the minute they open the schools and the entertainment industry in the South, sure, it took off like a rocket again. So I don't know. So, what I'm really sort of getting at is that are all these rules and regulations, are they here, for forevermore? But let me get back just one quick point, about the anti-vaxxer people. I was the way it came into my head was I was in a discussion with a guy, and he dismissed the fact that there's 5.2 million people dead with this, that there's something like 230 million cases of it. And he's sort of saying, well, the population of the world is something like 7 billion. By the way, this is an ongoing argument. And another guy came in there the last day. He says, I love these people who are saying that this is all fake and all the rest of it. He says, no one right now knows the long-term effects of getting COVID. People have got long COVID. Like there was a doctor on quite recently on RT who says he got COVID sort of about 9 months ago and hasn't gone back to work. He hasn't the energy. He says after about a half an hour, he's knackered and all the rest of it. Dude, all this is still to be sort of monitored and doctored and whatever it is down the line before we can turn around and say, oh, this is simple. Now, okay, some people are grand, but Jude, what strikes me is people, the keyboard warriors who have got zero scientific or medical qualifications are coming on and sort of giving prognosis and projections about this is all a scam and it's big pharma and all the rest of it. You know,
we knew they were stupid anyway, Pat. So it's not really news that they're stupid. The question is, will their stupidity lead them to actions that'll really be to the detriment of the rest of us? I must say that COVID so far, I find it constricting. I'm happy to say I haven't caught it, and nobody that I won't say nobody that I love, but none of my own family have caught it as yet. So I'm keeping fingers crossed. I'd rather not have it, but I'm learning to sort of live with it a bit and the restrictions it puts on me. And while you know the politicians led us to believe that it would be gone, you know, I remember when Leo Varadkar came out in St. Patrick's Day the first time and said, "Oh, will any of us ever forget St. Patrick's Day 2020? Was it 2020? Well, 2021 has passed, and it wasn't too terrific. And it looks like 2022 is not going to be too good.
It might be too good either, yeah.
So I don't know. I think we'll just have to wait and see how serious this one is. If it's just another strain, and they have to impose sanctions, or not sanctions, but restrictions, then so be it. So be it. Yeah. You know, what can we do about it? All my grandchildren are in America or in England, and I miss them. But you know, you can't have everything in life, and you just
have to get on. Well. Yeah.
So that's my judgment on it, Pat. For what?
I sort of agree with it, but just this morning I thought, Jesus, here we go again. So when's the next variant, and then do we have another variant, and then do we have another variant? And
it does have that sound to it, doesn't it? It's a bit like that.
I think that's
shark,
where we're
when you thought it was safe to go back in the water.
Yeah, along comes Jaws.
Exactly. Anyway, we will find out. They do seem to be playing safe. You know, some of them say, well, we don't know, and this is only on paper, and we'll have to wait and see. So it looks like we're going to have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. I hope none of this interferes with our launch, Pat.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I really get annoyed. Okay, let's move to number 2. Oh, yes, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that, don't worry. The number second item on the agenda is Boris Johnson, and you ask a question: is Boris Johnson a fit person to hold office?
Jesus, Jude, you know, I missed it the first time round. I didn't realize, you know, he was addressing the CBA, and he starts talking about Peppa Pig. Now, Jesus, Jude, I don't know about you, Jude. Let's get back to my grandkids. The eldest wee fella is 3, and Paddy, me, and his other child is just 1. Now, sometimes I'm called on as to Granda, sit some of the babies up there for an hour here. And the one way to get Noah to sit beside me and stay, you know, or I can keep an eye on him, is put on Peppa Pig. Now, was Boris Johnson trying to do the same with the CBA guys, get them to stay quiet? You know, Dude, like he was at the some meeting with the EU, wasn't he? And he started on about Kermit the Frog. Now, I don't know, maybe some people think this is charming little sort of whatever, a digression, and it doesn't this show Boris, you know. Jude, I think this makes him out a clown. Is he fit for office? When you go along to the CBA, these are the captains of industry, and these are serious people. And they were talking about this leveling up north-south, and you know, there's a lot of stuff at stake. And in the middle of it all, he starts rambling on about Peppa Pig. Do you seriously think that is the sort of the mentality or the level that a prime minister should be at?
Well, I suppose that's certainly one reasonable reaction to it. He lost his place too. It
doesn't matter.
30 seconds or something before he found it. Yeah. He kept saying apologies or I beg your pardon and so on. Now, I don't know, Pat, I'd have to hear the context of the whole thing. It does sound daft to be talking about Peppa the Pig or Peppa Pig to the CBI. But I have to hear the context, because I'll say this, and I say it reluctantly because I don't like the guy. He's a very droll and a very witty speaker. I think we have to accept that. He has personality.
Sure has he not gone past the sell-by date? That was sort of very charming, and sort of he was so off the cuff and so unusual and everything. But that's sort of wearing thin.
Well, it wears thin with people like me and you, but I'm not sure if it wears thin with everybody, because I knew, well, I suspected how dangerous and bad the man was in terms of his policies. So I suppose that tempered my admiration, but I always found him a witty speaker. And when he came on, you could bet there'd be a joke, and he was quite good at joshing the interviewer. So I would have to concede that to him. It doesn't matter whether he's a good or a bad politician. I'd have to say he's a witty speaker. But I would separate that from the fact that he has to make big decisions, and they've got to be big, good decisions. And sometimes he makes big, bad decisions, and sometimes he doesn't bother making decisions at all. Now, that's the kind of thing that would really worry me. So I would try to maybe separate the style of the man from the promises he makes, or the statements he makes, like, for example, that there'll never be a border in the Irish Sea. Yeah. If I was a unionist, I'd be going up the walls, because that's exactly what they've got. So it's what his effect is on the population. The trouble is, he always sounds very optimistic. He never says, "Oh God, we're finished. Oh, this is going to be tough." He always talks about, gloom and doom. People, look, let's go. That kind of attitude, while it might have worn thin with us, I still think a lot of people go for it and enjoy it. And I still enjoy it a wee bit. And I'd much prefer to see him kicked out in his fat ass, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff they come out, there's massive spin going on. I heard Dominic Raab coming on. This prime minister is leading from the usual bullshit.
He's an idiot.
The arse licking that's so prevalent. But like the guy from Sky was having none of it. He said, if this was the leader of the opposition, you guys would be going ape. And he says it's derisory and so on. But anyway, people like Raab, but they're also coming out and say our wages are going up and our such and such. Dude, that's totally dishonest what they're saying. They're spinning a disaster, which is Brexit, and a prime minister that doesn't seem to be on top of the brief in regard to many things. He's messed up on COVID. He's messed up on Brexit. They signed a thing totally dishonest to get an election, to win an election, an oven-ready deal with Europe. Some oven-ready deal. It's 4 years later, it still isn't oven-ready.
But look at what's in the headlines. Some people say, and I wouldn't put it past him, that was a deliberate ploy on his part. What are people talking about? Him saying "PEPPA the pig" to the CBI. They're not talking about.
But hold on, Jude. But there's a sort of a distraction that actually. That sort of works for you. I am not certain PEPPA Pig was a distraction that worked. It almost calls into question, the sort of what would you say, the statesmanship, the sort of the gravitas.
No, Pat, I should come on. I wouldn't buy that, Pat. Sorry.
No, seriously, Jude. There's something become almost clownish, amateurish. Like bring on the circus.
I think styles change with time. For example, think of Tony Blair. The way Tony Blair talked in speeches. Yeah. He talked, it seemed spontaneous, and he would,
I feel the hand of history.
Yeah, well, now leave that aside now. But by and large, he talked to people when he was making a speech, and he talked as if he was just chatting to them in a room almost.
Yeah,
that was his style. That would have been unthinkable 100 years ago. Because all the prime minister were very stately and they're addressing the nation.
With the BBC accent.
Yeah, that's right. So I would say styles change, and Boris, I mustn't say Boris Johnson is just another one of those.
So hold on, Dr. Collins. Are you saying buffoonery is now a style that's acceptable?
Well, the question is questionable whether you say, am I being a buffoon when I start cracking jokes to the CBI? Or am I a guy who just breaks conventions? And
he was coming across as a buffoon, an incompetent buffoon.
Well, Pat, I'll ask you a question. Did you see the full interview? or the full speech?
I saw about 5 minutes of it, Jude.
Yeah, well, that's I suppose that's about 4.5 minutes more than I saw. I need to see the whole thing.
No, I actually put it on, Jude. I missed it first time around. Now, when I saw this whole controversy about Peppa Pig, I said, "What's this about?" And it was on actually social media. Somebody put it up, and it runs for 4 minutes, something, and I just sat and watched it. Now, I presume the speech went on a lot longer than 4 minutes, but it was the Peppa Pig bit that was put up.
Well, I think he enjoys sort of surprising people or shocking people by what the line he takes, or the way he talks about a serious topic. I remember he talked the same way about the Olympics and people participating in it. We're talking about woof waff for ping pong. So it has that habit. More I think about it, the more I think that there was an element of distraction involved. Look at, here we are. We've been talking about it for the last 5 minutes about Peppa Pig and so on. And actually, that doesn't matter. I mean, really, in the end, it doesn't matter if he adds to that serious interaction with the CBI. If his whole speech consisted of Peppa Pig and nothing else, or if his speech consisted of Peppa Pig plus a bunch of lies, then that's bad news. That's serious bad news. But I still feel that's a distraction to get too worked up one way or another about Peppa Pig and him saying these whatever, care about the frog.
I think it crossed the line. I really did. I take your point that there's evolution, and I'm sure there are people sort of say, isn't he great? Isn't it, like he's different? I like that about him.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I wouldn't go that far, but I would allow for that.
But I would think there's a lot of people. The Tory party, by and large, are serious people, and I think there must be a lot of people saying this guy is absolute. The way Trump sort of totally divided the nation in America, and it didn't work out too well. He was a one-term president.
Well, so far, Pat. So far.
Yeah. So far, yeah. But
nobody said he's gone away.
He hasn't gone away. No, but Boris is doing pretty much the same for the Tories, because he's detested by the other side of the fence. No, the left, absolutely. Have you read any social media?
I was going to make the point. Sorry. Well, what are you saying about the left?
No, the left basically. He's the type. Boris Johnson is a very, what we say, polarizing politician.
Yeah.
There's some of the comments about him now coming from particularly everybody outside the Conservative Party. Yeah. There's a noticeable decibel increase about this man's a clown, he's an embarrassment.
Well, he is. And I imagine some of the Tories feel the same way about him. But the key thing for any leader is, does he deliver? That is to say, does he deliver power and number of seats? And he swept into power. He took seats.
By the way, on an absolutely, basically immoral. He signed something deliberately, knowing that to be able to go to the electorate and say, "I've got an oven-ready deal. Look at the carbon. He hasn't got a clue and all the rest." And then the minute he got an election, he said, "By the way, that deal I signed up for, I had no intention of keeping it."
Do you think that there are Tories wringing their hands and tearing their hair that he hasn't lived up to what he said? Most Tories, I would say, don't give a damn.
I'd say
they've got the seats. Their only fear is that might be that seat might be taken away from them again. That's the only thing. The guy who delivers the seats, the guy who pulls in the votes, that's
the guy.
Well, they really don't care.
What does they say, Jude? The first rule of every political life is get yourself re-elected.
Re-elected, exactly. And then let's face it, if you were in the same, if I was in that situation, I'd be keeping a pretty damn tight eye on my prospects 4 years down the line.
Yeah.
If you were at a job and you're possibly going to lose it in 4 years, you'd be doing everything you could to make sure you
to ensure you keep the seat. Exactly.
Yeah. So I would keep that in mind every time Boris Johnson, not Boris. Boris is too damn cozy. And the guy's name, he was never known as Boris until he was about 20. His name was Alex. Alexander, to give the full name. So I wouldn't allow it to distract me too much. I keep my eye on things he does. And what he has done so far, actually, I think is rather wonderful for the people in Scotland and the people who believe in a reunited Ireland. because he's
absolutely, he's done more for independence than any other British politician.
Yes, and long may it last, or
long
may
the
intensity will keep going. So that gets rid of that Johnson fellow. Okay, we talked about this before, and it's a very difficult one actually. Why do we like sad songs? Why sad songs bring tears to your eyes, and tears to your eyes is what you don't want to have. You don't want to be weeping, do you?
No.
Or do you like a good? Maybe you like a good cry.
Don't we all? No, yeah. There was some years back. One day, my brother, we were sitting chatting, and he says, "You ever heard a song called Shanna Golden?" I says, "No, I never heard of it." He says, "Listen to it, something." No, Jesus, Jude. He says, "One of them sad songs." And I went to a funeral one time, and they played Danny Boy, and he was a friend of mine, the guy who died. Jesus, Jude, I could find the tears running down my cheeks, and I was thinking afterwards, there was some, but you see, here's the thing: sad songs can be well comforting. Sometimes when this is a short version of a long story. We had a couple of friends who were of the Catholic priest variety, and we're at the house one day. They were both missionaries, and we happened to know them through a whole lot of. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And anyway, my wife is genuinely a very nice singer. She's a sort of a folk singer, and she sang this song called "A Stranger in My Place." I see the town where I was born. I see the place I was raised. It tells the story of growing up. I see all the, and anyway, I looked over. There was tears running down the priest's face, and I thought he must have been thinking back of maybe people who are gone, or maybe friends who are gone, and all that. And I thought the power of music to move people is truly amazing.
Was it Noel Card or somebody said it's extraordinary the power of cheap music? But cheap or dear? Actually, I think it's just a part of our makeup. We like tragedies because they act out. Say, I take a tragic hero, right? Tragic hero in a play, like a Shakespeare play or any play, winds up getting killed through some flaw or fault of his own. And you realize he's a potential to be great, but he screwed it up with this one thing. Yeah. Well, that really can be very harrowing, and you see the pain he inflicts on the other around him. In a way, what they talk about there is it's catharsis. You're getting purged off all these dark emotions, and I think that's pretty near to it. All of us have all sorts of potential for terrible actions and thoughts within us. Yeah. But these guys go out and present it to us in dramatic form or in song form. Yeah. So we like sadness that's safe. We don't like real sadness. You dry your tears and say, "Oh God, that was lovely." I think it has to be sad and beautiful, Pat. That's my view. If you somebody comes into the room and starts to bawl, right? Yeah. You don't want to hear that. You want somebody who will do it sweetly. And when they do it sweetly, it's wonderful. So sadness is just another emotion, but it has to be rendered in a way that makes it nice, or makes it really move. And we are attracted to that indeed. And in fact, I'd be more attracted I think that's probably true. I'd be more attracted to a sad song that was really effective than I would to a cheerful or hopeful song. Yeah, really
but isn't it nearly counterintuitive, Jude, that a sad song almost brings comfort? Or does something for us?
What does counterintuitive mean?
No, and it's something that goes against what you would think it should do. It's like somebody giving you a hot cup of tea on a warm day to cool you down.
I know what you mean.
That should make you warmer, but it actually
you shouldn't.
A hot cup of tea.
Well, that's right, but that applies to if you stop to think about it. Engaging in any serious aspect of life, is something we should shy away from. I mean, I don't want to get into discussion.
Hold on. What do you mean by that?
Well, for example, I don't want to start thinking about dying.
No.
Right? But I wouldn't really reject people discussing dying and death. And I think when people don't sort of grapple with it or try to come to some sort of terms with it, it seems to me they're less human. They're like an animal sticking its head in the ground.
Hold on, Dr. Collins. I'll put it like this. Me and you haven't fallen out yet. But see, the day you start talking to me about dying, take a run. I have no intention, whatever. Jude,
you don't know, finish the sentence. Finish that sentence.
Hold on. I don't intend to be there when I die.
You and Woody Allen.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, Pat, I don't believe you. I'm not going to get engaged. Well, I would engage in a conversation about dying. But I think anybody, who was it? Socrates said that the unexamined life isn't worth living.
Well, living, yeah.
Woody Allen said in the movie I watched the other night, he quoted Socrates that the unexamined life is not worth living. And he said, the examined one isn't much better.
I still think his best line ever. He says, I did a speed reading course. I read War and Peace. I think it's about Russia.
I don't even think he said think. I think he said it's about Russia. It's the sadness has a certain fascination. Like when John F. Kennedy died, was killed. I mean, the picture of his widow with that dress drenched in blood. I mean, that was a tragic figure. But you notice the thing about her. Well, she did that in a very dignified way. You never saw her crying. Now, that seems unnatural. And today people are told, show your emotions.
Yeah.
But in fact, her holding back those emotions and not displaying in public, for me, earned her far more sympathy than if she had actually shown them. So I think if you think about it too, even on a more sort of trivial level, people love ghost stories.
Absolutely.
Kids love to be scared. Halloween and all that stuff. In fact, they seem to do nothing now but bloody horror movies.
Yeah, they're the biggest nerdy thing in Hollywood. Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's got to do with the old catharsis, Pat. That you get somebody else to live out the stuff that you wouldn't want to do yourself.
I think there's an element of truth in that, but it thought occurred to me. Like, look at Adele. A lot of her songs, she's released an album there.
Oh yeah, 30.
And apparently some of the songs are, pretty
about her own life,
about her own life and pretty downbeat, and so on. But it's getting a lot of play and whatever. And then I look at Leonard Cohen. Jesus, he's made a career. Well, he's long gone, of course. But out of, as somebody said, music commit suicide by, because, a certain member of my family used to sit and listen to him in the dark. And I was going, good God almighty. But I have to admit, there's certain songs I sit and listen to even myself to this day, 30, 40 years later. But there you go. It was just a thought occurred to me. Why do we listen to these sad songs?
But it applies right across the board. I'm just thinking, some of the best poetry is really wonderful. Yet it's very, very sad. Like, everybody knows to be or not to be. That is the question.
Yeah, the question.
In other words, should we all top ourselves? I mean, you think that was daft? Who would want to talk about that? But Shakespeare gets Hamlet to talk about it, and people know the speech perfectly, nearly. So sad, as long as it's beautiful as well.
It has to be.
But
I remember in first year at secondary school, we did a poem. I think it was Sir Walter Scott. Was it John Lochinvar? I know about
John Lochinvar's come out of the West.
To us comes no cheering, to Duncan no morrow. In other words, he was dead. Yeah. It's well, that's true. It's if you do it right, if you do it with skill, if you do it beautifully, then all sorts of emotions are viable there. I was just trying to. There was something. Anyway. Oh yeah, there's a poem. I just dropped this last one. There's a poem by Philip Larkin, who's one of my favorite poets, even though he was an English snob and a swine actually in his personal life. But he wrote a poem called "Next, Please." Next, comma, please. You know the way in a dentist's waiting room. Next, please, or a doctor's waiting room. It's not about being in a doctor's waiting room. Read it, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, right. Excuse me, it isn't on a brothel by any chance?
No, it's not a brothel. Not a brothel. Pat, do you have to bring sex into everything? Yeah. Must you?
The best joke I heard, and it's clean. What is the most overused 4-letter word in a brothel? Next.
That's very good.
Ah,
That's
good.
very
Anyway,
good. Very
keep
good.
going.
Well done. Well done. That's cheered me up no end.
Uh,
Right. The last one I want to talk about is this. It's just a little interesting tidbit I came across, and I think it's been done in Ireland. What they've done is they have chosen a number of places, towns, I think,
Yeah.
and they've given the local residents for a certain amount of sort of community dollars to spend locally if they spend time moving around in the park.
Yeah.
And this comes out of the fact that when they ask local residents, would you take exercise, regular exercise, walking or running or whatever, in a local park? Say 40% said they would, but obviously 60% weren't.
That said they wouldn't. Yeah.
Aye. But when they said, would you use for the park, they 90% of them said, 92% of them said they would use the park for exercise if it was available to them and there was something in it for them. So what they did was they gave these guys, if they every 30 minutes they spent in the park, they got what $1. It's probably an American idea originally. And the limit was $5. You know, you couldn't stay in the park all day and make a fortune. And these could be cashed in for discounts on a number of things in the local businesses, like, and they cite some of the bike hub, the mobility genie, the digital hub, Epic Ireland, Little Bird Cafe. I thought that was quite clever. It's getting
absolutely
healthy, and it's also stimulating the local economy. Brilliant. There should be far more thinking like that, don't you think so?
Jude, I can understand why it's become the case too. But Jude, when I was young, you know,
were you ever young?
Well, that's a good question. But hey, Jude, when I looked around, most people were thin, and I mean, we walked everywhere. Like there's no question of getting. Where I live in Letterkenny, the St. Eunan's College was a mile and a half away, and you walk there in the morning, you walk there in the evening, and whatever. And you know, and there was no such thing as, you know, if you were going down the town, which was 2 miles away, you walked, and then you walked out, and you did everything. You know, now, Jude, I noticed the last day, and I was just in my own hometown, and I noticed, particularly young people, the number of young people who are overweight is serious. And I mean, and there's a whole difference, and anything that encourages people. But Jude, the other thing as well, I see when we were growing up, there was all sorts of like gardens, and there was farming, and there was everything. Now young people come home and they go to the computer. They don't play in the street. There's very little organized. The only place there's organized sport these days seems to be in the schools. The days of throwing your bag in the door and saying, "Mum, I'm away over to the park to play with the guys," and spend an hour or two there in the summer's evening. That's all. That doesn't seem to exist anymore.
Oh, that's true. But beside that, Pat, don't forget, if you take the GAA, or if you take, for that matter, soccer in Ireland now, it's at a level, and there's such intense rivalry, and they are working with kids from the age of 7. That was never, none of that was available when I was young. And incidentally, I read a piece, some newspaper the other day, and they said that in terms of longevity or good health, people who did housework lived longer than people who even exercised regularly. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? The fact that is built into your life. You're doing things you have to do, and that makes you healthier. So, and if you stop to think about it, like one of the things that is done in a house with a family is lifting kids and moving them around and running up the stairs. Something has happened, and you know you're really kept busy.
Dusting and hoovering and used to be washing, you know. And you see, one of the things they say is sitting down, a sedentary lifestyle, even exercise apparently doesn't totally compensate for that. Whereas a lot of, and I'm being gender here, a lot of women will be maybe going after the kids, lifting cups, doing that sort of thing. Whereas you know, that. Have you gone to for 40 minutes on a bike or something, and then sit the rest of your day at a computer? It doesn't make up for that, does it?
Yeah, that's why women live 7 years on average, 7 years longer than men, I think, because they are constantly doing stuff. And lifting and working with kids I find it totally exhausting. Really hard work. And
absolutely.
On the rare occasions when I've done it, it has been bloody hard work. So yes, have it built into people's lives, I think might be better. On the other hand, I must say I really enjoy going out for a walk or a jog even, and then come in and feel virtuous.
But isn't it said that we should all be doing something like 10,000 steps a day?
Aye.
And what is it? We should exercise something like 25 to 40 minutes at least 5 times a week.
Aye,
that's like right.
That's right. But bigger is brisk exercise they talk about.
I
have a thing in my watch actually, or is it my phone? It's my watch. Yeah, it tells me every so often. It says to me, it doesn't say it, but it's written on the dial. Stand up, for and walk around for a couple of minutes. Apparently, if you sit at your desk, I ignore the bloody thing, of course. But if you sit at your desk for several hours and don't move, that's really bad for you. You should be standing up, moving around, stimulating your blood in your legs and so on.
Jude, something let me say, when I write in the column for the Daily Mirror, sometimes I'm sitting, you'd be sitting for 2 or 3 hours. And actually yesterday when I got up, geez, I thought I had concrete legs rather than nothing moved for about 5 minutes, because I'd sat in the one position for about 3 hours. And I didn't realize, there was nobody in the house. I didn't even get up to make myself a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, actually, that touches on I understand that perfectly, where you'd be absorbed in something and you're not aware of the position you're sitting in or the fact that you haven't moved for the last 3 hours or whatever. But that actually introduces another topic, which is probably far too big, but maybe we'll come back to it. And that is, why do people write? Why do people write?
Keep that for another day.
You write a note to, the old days they used to write a note to the milkman when they were milkmen. And then people would crack jokes about that, who's doing the writing and what they say. But functional writing, where you needed to tell somebody, watch out, there's a big drain there or something. But the kind of writing you're doing, that's not transactional writing. That's a different kind of writing. And that kind of writing for somebody like you, and I think yourself as well, can be totally absorbing. And I often wonder, why do we do it? Because any journalist will tell you that what's on the newspaper today will be lining the birdcage tomorrow. Not as if you've written deathless prose. And yet, you get so absorbed in it, and why do we do that? Why do you do that?
Well, the old joke in the journal, there was someone great. I was editor of the Dairy Journal for 25 years, and somebody said, "Hey, you're so great on the journal last," and I says, "What is fish and chips?" So anyway, that's a good line.
I'm going to let you go out on that line, Pat. That's very good. But I want to go back to that whole matter again. It's very, very interesting. Okay, right, Pat.
Okay, Jude.
Look after yourself. Mind it. No, listen. Before you go. One moment.
Jude.
Snap.
Hey.
Snap. Can you see it? Snap. Get this book.
Hold on. To be launched in the Central Library, Foyle Street in Derry on Thursday night at 6:30, lasting from 6:30 to 7:30, and in Belfast on
Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon and lasting for about an hour. And be there or be square, right?
Yes, and we're doing a special promo on the book on Wednesday, so look out for it.
Oh, have you told them about that other one?
What's the other
radio thing?
Oh yes, on Highland Radio tomorrow morning, 10:30. Myself and Dr. Collins will be interviewed in regard to what shaped me.
Well, this is from what you tell me, this is radio where there's pictures.
Yeah, you can actually do it in Zoom. In fact, it will be done on Zoom. So anybody wants to go onto the Highland Radio site, they can see us on Zoom.
Yippee! Anyway,
that'll make your day.
Buy this book. It's only £10, Pat.
It's only £10.
12 economic suicide.
12 euros or £10.
I told you. I said charge more, but you insisted. No. I love the people. I want the people not to pay more than £10. Okay. So if we end up as bankrupt.
Did you ever think of selling snake oil, Dr. Collins?
Good book. Look at this. Find 2 men in the back of it too. Look at that. Look at that.
What lovely, good.
One of them cheerful and the other gloomy and brooding. Okay, Pat.
All the best, Jude. Good luck. Cheers.